Our subject matter today is Christmas, the big lie. The big lie. And, you know, brothers and sisters, we really, some of us, you know, because some of our people are kind of like a little bit woke. That's the modern terminology. Some of our people are now woke to the concept or the idea of Christmas being something fake or false or whatever. And so they will automatically say, oh, well, I don't celebrate that anyway. And they think, well, having said that, having made that statement, it's done and dusted. Well, it's not quite as simple as that, beloved. You know, something which has been programmed, you don't just ignore the program. You have to deprogram something. Have you ever heard the term debriefing? See, Christmas is now reinforced by songs of praise. Do you realize how many songs of praise you're going to hear over this time period? Do you understand that when you find yourself singing along or humming along, and you can't help it? This is what we grew up with, beloved. The enemy is not playing. And those of us who think this is some lightweight thing, we haven't got a clue. Good King Wenceslas, you can't say it? The 12 days of Christmas. You know, I was out one day recently and I saw a sled with fake reindeers on the back of a the back of a trailer being pulled by a car with a Santa sitting in the sled and music playing and loads of people walking along the side with tins collecting money. And they were in a particular neighborhood and they were making a whole heap of noise. And the bells were ringing. And I said, wow. And I could see people on the side of the road looking at the spectacle, and it's this kind of joy in their face. Excited. I saw a black man observing it, and he looked really pleased, you know, because there's lots of things that we see going down the road on a daily basis. And sometimes we be skinning up our face. Maybe at the election time, if they go down with one of those cars or vans with the loudspeakers on the top saying, vote green, or whatever, maybe we're vexed. But on this particular occasion, I saw this spectacle and I saw people looking happy. I was just looking at the people, observing the people. I didn't see nobody looking upset. This season is being reinforced by songs of praise. See, when you say songs of praise now, we're talking about songs which have a religious base. So within the songs, they're talking about God. They're talking about Christ. They're talking about Jesus. Well, the black man and the black woman, our very nature is God. Most black people who have been raised in Christianity, they love Jesus. So just the mention of his name, away in a manger, how sweet the sound. Do you understand, beloved? So these things are part of the programming that are going in, whether you want it to go in or not, it's going in, unless you live on a desert island somewhere. And I remember being in the Gambia one Christmas, and I was so happy because it was a Muslim country, and I was convinced, man, that I got away from Christmas. And then I saw these jet black Gambians at a certain point in one evening putting up this damn Christmas tree in the hotel foyer. And I said, my God. But then you forget, you got all of these tourists. And so they're catering for the tourists. There are, in this season, beloved, Christmas movies.
That's right.
See, audio visuals, that's programming. It's not an accident that it's called programs, television programs. And see, again, you know, we may not understand the science, but the science is real. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between fantasy and reality. So when you put on that movie, consciously you know that's Steve McQueen in The Great Escape. You know that's the actor. I think he died tragically, I'm not sure. I think he was one of the ones who died tragically in a car crash or something. But you know the actor Steve McQueen. That's consciously. Subconsciously, within 8 minutes and 20 seconds of that movie starting, you are into the plot. And you're now concerned and worried about the actor and what situations he's finding him or herself in. And we watch movies every day where we're tense and nervous and afraid because the subconscious mind believes it's real. And it goes in, and ultimately it becomes a part of your makeup. Lots of people don't understand that in the 1920s, in the early 20th century, lots of people learned to smoke from going to the movies. Lots of people learned to drink alcohol from going to the movies and watching the star go to the bar and say, give me a red eye. And this is how social engineering takes place, which is why so much money is spent on movie making, because they're called movies not just because the pictures move, but because they move the masses of the people in one direction or another. So when they made Jurassic Park, you had people coming out of the cinema saying, wow, they were so realistic. But realistic based on what? Because according to these historians, these creatures are supposed to have lived 60 billion years ago. Well, or 60 million years ago, it makes no difference. But how would the Caucasian know this when he's only been here 6,000 years? Did you know, beloved family, that there has never been the finding of one dinosaur? Never. Do you know what they find? They find a bone. They find a tooth. And from one tooth, they concoct, using paper mache, plaster of Paris, wire, steel, and other materials to make up Tyrannosaurus Rex. They give it a name. And they tell you that this is what we believe the creature would have looked like. But see, we don't listen carefully to Caucasians when they make their documentaries. You should listen carefully to their language. Because when you watch their language, especially when they're talking about things like dinosaurs and other theoretical ideas, the theoretical idea of evolution, pure theory, that one species evolves into another. Let me tell you something, it has never happened. God made things the way they are. Evolution is what's taking place today in terms of your upgrade. In terms of the fat television that we used to have that was from here to here, and now it's slim like this on your wall. That's the evolution. But in terms of species, in terms of an ash tree or a oak tree, or give me another tree name, come on. Elm tree. Look, man, it started off as a silver birch and it will stay a silver birch. This is how God works, beloved. I know some of you are vexed because it's like, oh, how do you know, Brother Leo? Let me tell you something, man. The enemy is very wicked. And it's really unfortunate that as black people, we never ever questioned him. Did we ever question our white preachers?
No, sir.
We have never questioned our white teachers. We never questioned them when we were growing up. Everything they gave us, we took it hook, line, and sinker. But when the truth comes, we're ready to question that. Well, how do you know that? How can I verify that based in the lying system? Well, you can't, because there is no truth in that system to back up the truth when it comes. So in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we're very confident. And we say to the masses of the people in this world, take it or leave it alone. It's entirely up to you. But let me tell you something about truth, beloved. See, truth is a very, very beautiful thing. And whether you appreciate it or not, as black people, your whole makeup is based on truth. You are built in truth. And what happens when you hear truth is that that truth that you hear from the outside resonates with your very nature.
Yes, sir.
And that's why sometimes some of us will shy away from these types of meetings, because it makes us uncomfortable. Because, you know, we hear something and we know, ooh, that's the truth. Because truth demands action. You can't know truth and pretend that you don't know. So I always say to young people, when I have the opportunity to interact and teach young people, when we're trying to steer them away from crime and punishment, when we're trying to stop them from murdering one another in those streets, I always leave young people with these words when I finish with them. I say, listen, brother, you ain't gonna be able to say tomorrow that you never heard or that you don't know. See, it's one thing when we don't have a clue, when we're ignorant. It's quite another thing, beloved, after we know. And black people, our very nature is God. We have a highly developed conscience. There is a person inside you, and that person is God. And every time you still his voice, if you're a sister, her voice within you, you are still in the voice of God. And there is a consequence for that. But it's not a giant God sitting on a cloud somewhere pointing down a finger of condemnation. It is a personal condemnation from within. From within. It is to do with your own brain, your own mind, your own thinking. When we as black people, I can't tell you nothing about them other people, because they haven't got what you have got. They haven't got that conscience, because they are not original people from the original God. And by the way, that's why their names, all their names, are based on nature, or the things of nature, but the things. But their names are not coming from the Creator, from God. Their names are not names of God. Their names reflect the things that they came and found. While our names traditionally and originally are the names of God. That's why we're called Muhammad. Because Muhammad is one who is worthy of praise and praised much. Yet, as soon as you offer praise to a Muslim, the natural response should be all the praise belongs to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. But then why would you call me Muhammad? If Muhammad is one who is worthy of praise and praised much, that is because Muhammad and God are one. That is because Muhammad is the name of God. Understand this, beloved. But they call themselves Mr. Woodruff. Woodruff. Rough wood. Mr. Crow. Mr. Landslide. Mr. Silverstein, based on the fact that the man admires silver. Mr. Goldstein. This is why they name themselves after things which, by the way, you and I took for granted. We knew how to smelt gold and deal with precious stones and precious metals or whatever, but we never had a gold rush. But when the Caucasian saw gold for the first time, he rushed it, beloved. And anything or anyone that was in his way died. This is a different mentality. Okay. I'm still trying to get to Christmas. Look, beloved. They got special Christmas foods. That's right. And drink. Some of which some of us are going to be partaking very soon. Well, I didn't look at anybody in particular. Don't get paranoid. Well, mince pies. If you knew the history of it, it's based on blood. Based on blood. But understand this, beloved. These special creams now that you'll find in black people's homes, whether it's, what is it, advocaat? That yellow eggnog, avocate, that yellow alcoholic drink, thick creamy drink. Baileys. They put in alcohol now into cream that you would put with your Christmas pud. See, all of this, these are the special things that they bring out at this time. There's lots of nuts, right? Lots of nuts. Every kind of nut will be available now, and they'll encrust the nuts into different types of cakes and foods because it's Christmas. And the special Christmas food, you've got to understand that in life, there are some staples in life. Food, clothing, and shelter. And Christmas covers all three big time. They got special Christmas foods and drinks, by the way. And Christmas, you'll find that the people will go out, like with Easter, get themselves an outfit, or freshen up something old, and because they're going out. And then the house, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, man, but when I drive along these roads and I see some of these houses, I think to myself, these people got more money than sense. Because some of the houses are completely covered in lights. I mean, completely. Some of the front gardens. Yes, sir. They got everything and every conception you can imagine in that front garden lit up. The shelter is to be brightly colored in lights to reflect what many of us may not appreciate what it actually symbolizes, but it's coming all the way back from their pagan worship days of sun worship. And the lights represents the sun. And that's why on the Christmas tree you see all these little balls and baubles and whatever, and then they put the wreath on the door, their front door, whatever. All of it is symbolic of the Son. Look, beloved, the Christmas decorations are critical to them in this time period. And chief among them is the tree. And you know, we always quote the Bible because it's very informative. And you should go there yourself when you get home and have a look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verses 1 to 5, wherein it says, "Hear ye the word which thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathens are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver, with gold, they fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be borne, they must be carried, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." The book is making it clear that the practice of going into the forest and cutting down a tree and bringing it back to your house and fixing it in your house and decking it in silver and gold is the practice of heathens. The word heathen means a non-believer.
Teach, brother, teach.
We're not heathenistic people, beloved, and we must not be found in this practice, because the practice, it's neither good nor bad. If you want to know the truth, it's a complete and utter waste of your hard-earned money, because those trees, they cost money, right? Some people don't bother with the real tree. They got tinsel ones, right? They got fake ones, and they go and buy those, and then they fold them up and put them away to next year. But whichever way, this is important that you understand what God and the prophets and the scriptures say about this practice. It's not a practice that is looked upon in a good light by righteous people. It is something that is detrimental to the spiritual growth and development of righteous people. And you've got to understand, and we'll get into why in a minute. There are some black people I know who are going to be going to, in this season, what they call midnight mass. You know about that, right? The Catholic people. Midnight mass. And it's important, beloved, to understand when we start to give and receive these Christmas cards, and why quite often it's abbreviated to Xmas card. You know, I'm not a well-educated individual, and I'm not saying that in a facetious way. I mean it. You know, I didn't go to school. I've had about 3 years of formal education my entire life. But even with my rudimentary education, I know that if you're going to abbreviate Christmas, why would you put Xmas? Because they say, oh, it's just shortening it. No, that's not shortening Christmas. That means something else. Did you know that X is the Roman symbol that means unknown? And there is a part of this whole process which is a mockery of the masses of the people. So it says Xmas, which means in translation, the masses of the people worshiping that which they know not. They're mocking. Xmas cards. All these lights, beloved. Sun worship. We don't worship the sun. As a people, you will hear some people tell you that, oh, Islam is a moon worship religion or sun worship religion. Let me tell you something, beloved. we understand that that ball of fire is out there to serve us as human beings. But we don't bow, you know, because, you know, some of us we say we're sun lovers. And we appreciate the sun. We understand the importance of the sun. But we don't worship the sun, beloved. But the Caucasian, during the time of winter, that which they called the winter solstice, when they saw the sun, what they felt was retreating away from their caves and hillsides in Europe, they would begin to literally pray to the sun, entreating the sun to return. This is paganism, because they have no relationship with the living God, and so they were looking at things and trying to determine which of the things that they could see was God. This is paganism. Look, beloved, bells. In the Islamic world, the call to prayer is what? The human voice. It's a wonderful thing, you know, beloved. But in the Christian world, what is the call to prayer? The bells. The bells. It's not an accident, beloved. Those of you who are familiar with jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Again, you know, everything that these people promote and advertise big time, there's trickery in it, beloved. I know that we don't necessarily understand and appreciate that terminology that comes out of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad called tricknology. Did you know that that's a science that was taught to the Caucasian people? They were taught a science called tricks and lies. So they are expert liars and expert tricksters. There's some of us who watch, what's his name? The little magician. Dynamo. Or David Blaine. Let's talk about the black man. We watch them do their thing, and it always makes me laugh when people watch it. They watch the thing that's been done. He did one the other day where he took somebody's ring and basically looked like he dashed the ring in the ocean. And the man was like, that's my ring. And then he said, okay, look at my trainers. And then the trainers, he's got trainers on and they're tied, the laces are tied, and he shakes his foot. And then all of a sudden the ring appears tied into his laces. And I've watched things like that with some black people, and the black person says, yeah, but it's a trick. Yeah, exactly. It's a trick. That's the point. And because we can't work out how they do it, we are incredulous, almost angry, because you tricked. Look, man, let me tell you something. This man is so tricky. You're dealing with Satan, who will make you believe what your eyes see, but what your eyes see ain't necessarily so, ain't necessarily real. This is a tricky demon. Do you know that there are people arguing right now that this man may never, ever have gone to the moon?
Yes, that's right.
And that there are people with scientific backgrounds who are saying, well, look, man, how comes the flag is blowing on the moon, but there's no air? How comes, you know, this man is getting down off the ladder, Neil Armstrong, and he's saying one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, but there are already footprints that you can see on the moon, but he's making the first footprint. How? There are people who are arguing that so much of popular culture that many of us have taken for granted were not even real. That the whole moon landing was done in a studio somewhere in Hollywood. I don't know whether it's true or not. To be completely frank with you, I don't care. What I'm more interested in is when are you and I going to realize that we can't pin our hopes and our dreams and our future on a man who is steeped in tricknology? All praise is due to Allah. Another word for advert in this world is a jingle. The bells. Understand, beloved, that every time you hear those bells, you are being programmed. You know, that experiment that is it Pavlova's dog? It was on the ringing of the bell that the dog would start to saliva. The bell is critically important to the enemy, and we must be aware of the programming that is going on in this world, beloved brothers and sisters, using sounds, using bells, using music, and it's aimed at us primarily because we are not reflectors of things, we are absorbers. Because we're black people, we absorb energy, we absorb whatever is aimed at us, we take it in. Many Caucasian people, they don't absorb, they reflect. It literally bounces off of them. It's not affecting them the way in which it affects us. We have to be very careful what we expose ourselves to, because we will take it on like it's real, and then before we know it, we are carrying it out. Many of the black girls, young girls that you see now out there, their makeup, their outfits and everything, it's not based on a black role model. It's based on Marilyn Monroe. It's based on Hollywood actresses from back in the day that they don't even know, who first made their lips bright red, who first wore a chain around their ankle, which by the way signified a prostitute, who first tattooed themselves in a particular way. But now a lot of our young sisters, they go out in this style and this fashion thinking that they've invented something. A lot of these young brothers now walking around with their trousers down, with their underpants on show, and they literally look like a baby walking with a full nappy. It's pathetic. But because they don't know the origin of it and how that was a signal within prison that meant that you were available to be penetrated by other prisoners. And now they are walking around like that in the street thinking this is style and fashion, and thinking that we've arrived. And even though you see some Caucasians doing it, we're the trendsetters in it. And the Caucasian youth, they now follow our youth. Whatever we do, they do. And you see these Caucasians now, I think in the early 80s, they called them wiggers. White people trying to be niggers. But the world is flooded with them now. Every other white person you meet now, they're trying to drop some black kind of moves and some black kind of words or whatever. And again, with us now, we get all excited because if a white person can black speak, then yeah, what's up, bro? We're down, bro. That's my dog. Come on, man. If they can, yeah, fist pump. We're being hoodwinked, beloved. So the masses of the people in this season are worshiping that which they know not. This is what's going on today. And as I said, the enemy, beloved, has got a whole program wrapped around this. It's not a lightweight thing. Imagine we're in a season where gifts are given freely. See, who don't want a free gift? Who don't want it? Somebody's coming to you later on now, they're going to give you something for nothing. How many black people you know gonna say, Chuck, move from me with that, man? It's a heavy thing. And coded within that is, it's a time of goodwill to all men. And how that translated during slavery was that on Christmas Day, one day in the entire year where we work from can't see morning to can't see night. Do you know what that means, beloved? Any of you been leaving your house early in the morning recently? When it's still dark? And getting back home when it's dark? Well, that's how we worked 24/7, 365 days a year during slavery. Can't see the morning because it was dark. Can't see the night, dark. That's the hours that we put in, working in the fields. And then, beloved, on one day of the year, Christmas Day, the slave was allowed to get drunk. See, if you see black people in this season almost losing their minds, more than Caucasians. I mean, we're the ones in the barber shop right now, getting the hair, we're ironing the outfit, we're getting our stomachs ready. Not milk, but we want to line up. I have to line my stomach because we're gonna take copious amounts of alcohol because we are looking forward to the celebration of being without any restrictions. And this has been passed down through what's called genetic memory. Because black people, you know, it's unfortunate, but for many, many years in the 20th century and now in the 21st century, beloved, we've been suffering. It's not many generations back. I mean, my mum and dad, they were juggling. Maybe if they buy this week, they can't get this week. Anybody in here know what I'm talking about? Yes, some of us are still juggling, beloved. Yes, this is the reality. So I'm not talking about ancient history in terms of privation and suffering. And so anything that you can get within that life that brings some relief from the everyday hardships and struggles, beloved, that's welcomed by black people. So the idea of Christmas and teaching against Christmas to our people, oh my God, people, most of our people, you must be mad. Because even if I'm not gonna subscribe to being a pagan, Brother Leo, I'm just letting loose, bro. I'm just letting my hair down. It's one night, what's the big deal? And we will try to reason our way to justify participating in that which is unseemly and not becoming of us as the people of God. Beloved family, how you all feeling?
Yes, sir.
In this season, beloved, who do you think the number one targets are? The children, beloved. Right. They're targeting our children. I asked my children the other day, I said to them, how do you feel, you know, about not celebrating Christmas? And they said, yeah, fine, we're happy, whatever. And I was just looking at them good though, you know, thinking so then I probed a bit deeper, a bit more questioning. I said, okay, so how does it make you feel that you're not participating or whatever? And this is to my youngest, my son. And he said, it makes me feel unique and special. I said, go on, son. I said, go on. I said, go on. I said, go on. That's the right answer. See, because if they felt left out or, you know, targeted in some way, then that would be a problem. But we've got to instill within our children the beauty of their individuality, the beauty of their uniqueness. Black people have got to know that we don't need to belong to somebody else's club to make us. Santa Claus is a big, dirty, stinking, fat lie, beloved. And the sad thing about it, beloved, is that we don't appreciate how children believe what we tell them. And even in this day of social media and smartphones and smart televisions and all of the things that our children are exposed to, which makes them a lot more savvy than we were when we were their age. So they're not really that naive about reality. Children are much more, you can't, like what people could bring to me and you back in the day, you can't bring that to children. The children looking like, yeah, idiot. I know about that. But still, nevertheless, a child is a child. And their level of maturity means that, beloved, when you expose them to a big, fat, stinking lie, that there is this Caucasian, this big, fat Caucasian from Lapland with some reindeer on a sled, and he traverses the planet in one night on the 24th. Hitting people's chimneys like it's going out of fashion. Going down with gifts and presents. And the children wake up in the morning, beloved, and there's gifts and presents there. And they're like, and they wonder, I wonder if it... You see outside these houses, they got signs, designs, and it says, Santa, please stop here. The parents tell the children, unless you put out a stocking, Santa ain't gonna. And the children are roped into this big lie, and it goes on, and they hide the gifts. I went to a house recently to deliver a gift which wasn't wrapped, and the woman was vexed, not with me, she was vexed with the company. She was saying, I can't take this in the house. She said, I gotta leave it in the garden until I can get it wrapped, because I don't want Junior to see. Because there's all of this secrecy that's going on, and intrigue to capture the imagination of the youth. Because children, they're susceptible to that, beloved. And before you know it, the child is 10, 15, 16, 17, and in the back of their mind somewhere, there is this notion of a free gift. Do you know what that leads to next? You're going to do the lottery. Understand me, beloved. It's all connected. See, when you think that you can get something for nothing, something for free and a Caucasian as well. And this Caucasian he's like God, How is he like God? Because the image of God that they give is of a big fat man with a big beard. And this man can listen to this man's attributes. He knows when you are sleeping. Ooh, I know that. He knows when you're awake. See, these are attributes of God. And we don't understand that this ain't some innocent thing. This goes into the children, beloved. This goes into the children. Look, man, at this time, there is copious alcohol consumption. Copious alcohol consumption. They say it's the season of goodwill to all men. But beloved, did you know that there's more violence at this time of the year than at other times of the year? Have you seen the video going around of all the Santa Clauses kicking the hell out of each other? They must be arguing over the money that they've collected and how to split it up. Did you know that at this time of the year there's more depression and suicide than at any other time? This is a highly pressured time on people. Did you know that at this time of the year there is more borrowing of money and accumulation of debt? Because people want to buy gifts and presents for people that they hardly know. Maybe their neighbor, maybe some relative that they haven't seen for the whole year, but now they feel pressured now to get them a gift. And this increased borrowing, it was on LBC yesterday, they were talking about debt management during the Christmas period. And it's a real problem, beloved. And people calling in with their horror stories about, you know, what happens to them during this Christmas period. This is the season, beloved family, for the Christmas party. Ooh. Even at your workplace, everybody's going to go now to have their drink. They might do in the workplace, or they may go to a pub or some bar or some other kind of facility, but Christmas parties. And what happens at these Christmas parties? Invariably, there's something hanging above a door. And the office pervert, who has been waiting all year for his opportunity. And by the way, the drinks are flowing. And you know, when the drinks start flowing, people's morals get loose. The music is playing, the atmosphere is right, and the office pervert moves in. Sometimes the office pervert don't even have to move in. She gets so inebriated herself that she will go and start talking about, I've walked underneath the mistletoe about 5 times already and you haven't stopped me yet. It doesn't stop at a kiss under the mistletoe, beloved. Quite often what that kiss under the mistletoe leads to is some illicit sexual activity in one of the offices, or in some car park, or in the back of some car, in some drunken, frenzied sexual act. This is real. Lots of babies are ill-conceived as a result of Christmas. This is some serious stuff. And women in particular have to be very, very careful at this time. If you're in that world and people are inviting you, because it's not just the alcohol, it's not just Ray and his nephew and the other guys that you're drinking, but it's now also these date rape drugs, where they will drop this stuff in your drink, man. Untraceable, no taste, but before you know it, you're in a terrible condition and you're in somebody's bed. Or as I said, in some dark alley somewhere. So, beloved, there is a consequence for all of this wickedness. I really need you to understand this. I know, because we think, okay, yeah, you're saying all of this and this happens and that happens, and yeah, but okay, so where's God in all of this? Let me tell you something, beloved. You need to study history, and you need to look at what happens during Christmas and New Year's. This season, there's always major disasters. Did you mention a volcano, brother? Yeah. You remember the tsunami?
Yes, sir.
And you will find that always around this time, see, Gatwick wasn't no accident, but see, they're trying to get away to go and have fun. Allah say, you ain't having no fun. You're going to sit on the airport floor because you ain't going nowhere. And you will find more and more catastrophes. See, Brexit, the MPs are saying, but you can't just leave it up in the air like that. We need to vote before Christmas. No, the people are left in limbo now for 2 weeks till these demons come back. And when they come back, that all of the chaos will continue.
In the White House.
Because Brexit, beloved, Brexit is a sign of the end of Britain. Hear me well. But don't forget, don't get too happy and start cheering, because where do we live? We live in Britain.
In or out of Brexit? Yeah.
In or out. Exactly. Mr. Trump is not a seasoned politician, beloved. And Trump's idea from the very beginning was that he did not want to have these adventures abroad. And his number one thing has always been to bring those troops home. Trump ain't no seasoned politician following the program. In fact, Trump is a nationalist. These politicians, they are following a global agenda. They're globalists. And they are financed by shadowy figures in the background who are multinational bankers, international bankers. Trump has got his own money. And so when Trump says, I'm pulling the troops out, look, man, he's upsetting a lot of people. A lot of very powerful people. They won't allow him to do it. Obama thought he could do it. They didn't allow him to do it. Obama thought he could close down Guantanamo Bay. Look, man, this world is finished. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan recently warned them that the calamities in your world are going to increase. And he warned us, because we won't let go of them, the calamities on us are also going to increase. And so, beloved, as I close, you're going to witness these disasters because, and especially disasters that affect them in a financial way. Because Christmas is the time when the merchants make the most money.
That's right.
Christmas is that season where they can literally balance their books on what they earn at Christmas. Christmas is the icing on the cake in terms of now being able to say, oh man, we came good for the year. But more and more and more, they're trying to increase their revenues during this time period, but more and more and more, Almighty God in His infinite wisdom is curtailing their ability to make that money.
Yes, God.
How are they doing this, beloved? They've added days to Christmas. You know, we had the 12 days of Christmas, but now you've got another day that they've added called Black Friday. You understand? See, Black Friday is a day now that's supposed to capture the imagination of the youth. And most of the shopping is to be done online. And these stores, I mean, they're like half price, 2/3 off, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, really, you know that whatever they're selling it for in the sale, they could have sold it for that price all along. So again, it's just a big part of the technology. Super Saturday, that's a new date now. Again, online shopping. It's no wonder that Amazon is now the richest company on the planet. A super company. Now they've got Cyber Monday. These are all days building up to the big day called the 25th day of December. I need you all to, you should all make sure that you get a copy of Our Savior Has Arrived, and go to chapter 29 entitled Mary, Joseph and Jesus by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who teaches us that the 25th of December is the birthday of Nimrod. He's an evil demon of the white race who was born in the last 300 years of the civilization of Moses. Nimrod is who we are celebrating on that day. And the enemy knows this. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, the deceitful theologians and writers of Christianity, along with their chief, the Pope of Rome. Understand who the Pope is. He is one of the chief antagonists and liars when it comes to the deception called Christmas. They know the truth, but yet they have deceived the people as to the knowledge of the truth by deceiving them to worship an evil demon like Nimrod. You need to have a little study about Nimrod. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, they have the history of Nimrod with them, and they use him under the name Jesus to deceive the people, to make them believe that the 25th day of December was Jesus' birthday. And in this way, they would have the world worshipping this wicked evil demon Nimrod for the all but perfect prophet Jesus. I don't want you to make a mistake here, beloved. The messenger of Allah was very clear. Even though you are saying Jesus, it's Nimrod. And they know that all of the things that are being done are congruent with the worship of a Nimrod and not a Jesus. So even though you may say from your lips one thing, your actions say another. And action speaks louder than words. And by the way, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad referred to Jesus. He said, for the all but perfect prophet Jesus. Just for the Christians who may watch this, just that you know that we love Jesus as Muslims. Not only do we love Jesus, but we know him. All praise is due to Allah. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, but Jesus was not born in December. God, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, has taught me that his birthday took place between the 1st and 2nd week of September, and that no one knows exactly what day he was born, for it was a secret kept between Joseph and Mary to save them both from being murdered by getting a baby out of wedlock. That was the circumstances under which the individual was born 2,000 years ago. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says the real truth that the Christians hate to confess is that Joseph has gotten the child Jesus by Mary while he was married to another woman. I just want that to sink in a little bit. Because people talk Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. You don't know a damn thing about Jesus. He was married to another woman, and at the time had 6 children by the first marriage. Go in your Bible and read about Jesus' brothers and sisters. He had 6 children by the first marriage, so Master Farad Muhammad, God in person, has taught me. And then later in the same chapter, chapter 29 of Our Savior has arrived, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, he explains something about the background of Mary and Joseph. He writes, Joseph and Mary had promised to marry when they were going to school at the age of 6. And they were separated since Joseph was a poor man and Mary's father was a rich man. He refused to give Mary over to Joseph when he became a man, and Joseph went and married another woman and had been married for 6 years and had 6 children by this wife. When the opportunity came that he could visit Mary, as she called him and told him of the opportunity, he made good of it. Then the love that they had for each other when they were little sprang anew again while they were alone together in the absence of Mary's father, and this act took place. So Allah, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, taught me. It was a real love of two young people from they were very young, and they were denied the opportunity to be together, but at a certain point in time, an opportunity presented itself, and because they always had a love and a passion for one another, nature took its course, which is why we have chaperoning and in courtship between the girls and the boys, because nature is a very powerful thing, beloved. And this is how this beautiful human being called Jesus of 2,000 years ago was born. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the same book, writes on page 166 of Our Savior's Arrive, "So you go out and spend your hard-earned money to worship with white people." And that's essentially what we're doing in Christmas. Don't ever try and put a black face on Christmas, beloved. Everything that we're doing in this time period is to patronize white people. They force you under disguise and defraud you into worshiping the birthday of that wicked old Nimrod on December. And if you knew the truth of him, you would not dare to worship it.
Come on.
Because I haven't gone into it today, but you need to know about Nimrod.
Yes.
And the type of things that Nimrod did.
That's right.
And then you understand why what you see going on goes on in the world based on his birthday. But it was Nimrod who, when he died, his mother told the people that he was special, and they buried him underneath an evergreen tree. And the people who worshiped Nimrod, they would come and put gifts under that tree. That's where that particular tradition among the pagans comes from. And so, beloved family, I pray that, this year and next year, we will take to heart the guidance that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us when he says, "Down with Santa, up with Jesus." It's really, really important, beloved family, that we understand that the man who lived 2,000 years ago was indeed a black man. Shall I say it again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was a black man, beloved. He was actually sent to the Caucasians. He was sent to the Jews.
That's right.
And they were so wicked, beloved, that they absolutely designed to murder him.
Teach.
This is real. And in the end, he was murdered by one of the Roman soldiers. But Jesus was 2,000 years too soon. That one back there. He was out of season, hence why they could murder him. And many of the prophets sent to the human family in the last 6,000 years were murdered. Many of them were beaten, many of them were imprisoned, all of them were slandered. But the season in which you and I are living today is not a season of prophets. This is the time of the fulfillment of all prophecy. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the Christ. Not Jesus, but the Christ. And who is Christ? Christ is the one who comes at the end of all of the wickedness after Satan has done all of his work. The name Christ is a title. It means one who is anointed with power to crush the wicked. He is not a man who comes to preach. He's a man who comes to execute judgment. Christ is not a man who floats down from a cloud. Christ is a man who comes up from hell. He was steeped in the civilization of the enemy, in the mud of the enemy's civilization. He was murdered, he was killed like all of the other people under that wicked enemy. He is titled the first begotten of the dead. The first of those that slept. He wakes up first and then he wakes up everybody else. He is the resurrection and the life. All praise is due to Allah. all praise is due to Allah. A lot of people in the religious world are upset with us in the Nation of Islam, but we don't care. Truth is truth. And hang around a few days and you will see this truth made manifest in reality, because God is not mocked. God is real, beloved. And I'm appealing to all of us as we go deeper into this 21st century. 2019 is upon us, and we got work to do.